Now, I'm delighted to move from one big data set to the next, and delighted to welcome an entirely different panel to talk about standardizing digital data, census data for content and ads. We've got a wonderful panel lined up, so I'd like to welcome Todd Bender from ViacomCBS to take the floor, and his panel, James, Jonathan, Tal, and Prema, who should all be with us. Todd, take it away, sir.
Great. Thank you very much, John. Super excited to be here and think we've got a great panel. I'm Todd Bender. I work for Paramount. When I went to sleep last night, I worked at ViacomCBS. So things are moving quickly, which is consistent with the space that we're going to be discussing today. So great transition from the last panel. Obviously, our focus is going to be on the digital sphere. There is a lot of excitement, a lot of growth, and with that excitement and growth comes an incredible amount of complexity and an incredible amount of fragmentation. And the panelists that we have with us today are representing companies that sit really at the center, technically and from a business perspective, of the ecosystem that we're talking about here. So let's get started by jumping in and asking folks to introduce themselves. We could start with Tal.
Hey, hello everybody. Very excited to be here. Hopefully you hear me well. I'm Tal Chalozin. I'm CTO and co-founder of Innovid. At Innovid, we power connected TV, ad serving and streaming, personalization and measurement for the world's largest brands. Roughly 40% of top television advertisers in the US uses Innovid as their core ad server. So we deliver the ad. I have a lot to say about the previous panel, but I'm sure we will talk about it soon.
Great. Let's go to James.
Hello, everybody. I'm James Lamberti. I'm the CMO over here at Conviva. We are the comprehensive continuous census level measurement and analytics provider to the vast majority of the world's premium streaming services, including the one you now work for, Todd. Really happy to be here and to talk about, I think, how we can start to solve these problems.
Great. Prema.
Hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'm a group product manager in Google Ads, and I lead product teams that oversee measurement product solutions focused on brand advertising and marketing insights for our ads customers. The product portfolio we look at is not just digital, but also cross-media, and also spans both buy-side and sell-side, including third-party integrations that we support on our platforms.
Great. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Todd. Excuse me, John Whitticom, Chief Product Officer of FreeWheel. FreeWheel really is helps power the television industry. We have kind of CSS systems, medium buying systems for buyers. We sit on the both linear and digital streaming side as an ad server and SSP. And effectively everyone, including Todd, other than Disney, uses portions of our tech stack to help kind of generate monetization capabilities for the content or access a rich and robust TV marketplace. And I agree with Tal, we have a lot to talk about from that last panel, which was fun to listen in on.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's get into it. So, just start with from my seat as a media company, when we look at census measurement, obviously, as discussed in the last panel, that's where the most valuable source of data comes from. But we, as a media company, deal with incredible amounts of complexity. We look at a specific show that could be distributed in tens of thousands of different combinations of distributors, platforms, and all of the technical nuance, the regulatory nuance, the business nuance that comes with that. And so we're dealing with a real sort of thorny, challenging problem to actually collect and use this data and understand in a comprehensive way the audience, whether you're talking about a media property or you're talking about a campaign. And so it'd be great to hear you guys go through and we can run it in reverse order and just talk about your companies. I think we've got a great blend of different players here, all sitting really kind of at the foundational level of the ecosystem. It'd be great to hear about what you guys do in terms of the solutions that you have and how you look at solving this problem around census level measurement. So John, we'll start with you.
Sure. As kind of the ad server, we have a unique perspective of being able to see kind of across multiple distribution channels and devices where ads and where content's being consumed, which is great. But as somebody who's trying to empower all of our different clients, we're more of a facilitation layer as opposed to someone who weighs in on how those data assets are shared and accessed. So we like to work with Viacom or a distributor like Comcast or Charter or Cox or Roku or Amazon and help try and facilitate data exchanges to help people understand true kind of frequency rates, cross-channel consumption patterns, and help both publishers and advertisers more effectively understand what's happening across their various campaigns, either on the sell side or on the buy side. It's an interesting challenge because, right, we lack standardization in the industry. We lack common identifiers, and identity and privacy are becoming harder and harder, and the value of probabilistic signals are decreasing every day. And Google announced today, and Prema can talk about it, more changes to advertising IDs in the system, which helps make things a little bit harder for third-party data sharing.
Great. Prema, how about you?
Sure. I mean, a lot of interesting, challenges highlighted already. But the key thing is where I sit, we build measurement products for everybody, and we are focused on building privacy-centric solutions. We see Google's role as an industry partner that is committed to objective and privacy-centric solutions. And this means working with measurement partners, buy side, and also standard, independent bodies such as the MRC, as well as, creating innovative solutions such as Ads Data Hub, which allows us to continue to meet marketers' needs of measurement, but also keeping user privacy front and center, because there's evolving expectations around privacy, but we also want to be able to meet marketers' needs. The other example that comes to mind is, media. We've all heard from the past panel, and John just mentioned, there's increasing complexity around media consumption behavior. I mean, consumers are accessing different devices, media platforms, and this does create a challenge for marketers around marketers and the sell side to provide measurement in a comparable way. So we are very committed, and we're working very much with industries and also the measurement providers to innovate solutions to bring comparable solutions across this media.
Great. Yeah, there's a lot to get to there. James, why don't you give an intro?
Yeah. Hello again. Yeah, I mean, so Conviva, we've in streaming for over 500 million viewers today, and 4 billion applications. We have fundamentally solved for the technical challenge of census level measurement in streaming. You saw that in what NBC released yesterday, right? Through Nielsen, and in the case of our involvement, iSpot. So I think for the Super Bowl, I look forward to talking about what I mean by that, but it's not a superlative statement. I mean, we literally have solved the census measurement challenge for streaming for the vast majority of this country's and many of the world's streaming providers. And I really look forward to us partnering and integrating with iSpot or Nielsen or ComScore and starting to figure out from the bottoms up how that technical census level measurement with control by the publishers can make it into the ecosystem in a really healthy, collaborative way to solve for these problems. And ViacomCBS. I can't forget my friend Josh.
Great. Todd, your turn.
That's my cue. Thank you. I feel so fortunate that I have something different to say. So I'm happy to go last. So we come from the buy side as opposed to most of the people on the panel that represent the sell side. And something funny that Vijay from iSpot said earlier is that in the future, program and ads will not travel together anymore. And that's funny because that's the core kind of underpinning capability of digital, where they absolutely do not, and syndication is a core component. And we come from the buy side, where we measure the spot for an advertiser. We don't care. Presumably, we don't care that it's syndicated or it travels with this show or is not, or in this pod or something else. We want to measure the occurrence of that specific ad clearly in the right context, but understanding that. So on the good side, census level measurement is feasible when you are measuring impression. And we have the benefit of being almost like a FedEx network, the network that delivers the packets, and we know exactly the source and the destination, and we mark every packet there. The challenge of that census level measurement is that obviously the world is much more siloed, and it's very hard to compare apples to apples. We do counting the number of ads on a census level is easy, but comparing the duplication of the audience is clearly not easy. Prema mentioned ADH as an example earlier, clearly a fascinating piece of technology, but creates an issue in a world of deduplication where all data lives in that database as a silo.
Yeah, and I think that dovetails into the first question here, and we'll sort of offer this up as a jump ball. So, I think clearly we have a lot of challenges. What do you guys view as the biggest, most significant challenge of everything out there today as we, grow this space and look to solve these issues that folks have raised?
Is there a buzzer we hit, or can we just?
You can just start talking. Go for it. You have the floor.
I'm Israeli, so no one expects me to be polite, so I can do things like that. I'm kidding. So what I mentioned earlier about a common identifier, I'm sure this is kind of a broken record because everyone's saying the same thing, but a common identifier that is pegged to an impression, that's really the key in order to solve the kind of cross-platform media measurement. We recently announced last week, feels like forever, but our acquisition of TV Square and getting into the linear TV space, because we do want to present the holistic, kind of connect the previous panel and the current panel together. But over there, when trying to connect those two areas, the lack of common identifier is even stronger. So a lot of companies relying on internet identifiers like an IP address, which is clear that days are numbered. So something that allows to know each and every impression what on a kind of common playing field is, in my mind, the biggest problem.
Yeah, I think that I'll surface a different issue. That's, I guess, in our opinion, in our view, I think there's a fundamental shift that we believe the industry should take and how they solve these problems, and that is to reverse what we've tried to do for the last basically 70 or 80 years, which is to start at the top of the pyramid, a sample, right? A population of people, and move that sample through a methodology of projection and get to then the bottom of the pyramid, that is, I'm representing the entire population. The technical, the fragmentation issues, the business issues we face are simply insurmountable in the world we live in, especially in the world of streaming. I would say we need to flip that pyramid upside down. Start with where we have census level capability, expose it transparently, right? Let the MRC, or frankly, when it's census level, let Ernst & Young come in and verify its accuracy, right? Then move through how we organize and integrate that data. This is where identity comes in. I think maybe the one subtle difference in what Todd said that I would say is going back to the previous panel, even at that layer, right? We're now moving into a time and a place where the publishers are fundamentally going to have to control that narrative, right? To get to federated identity from a privacy perspective, and frankly, representing the publishers, the loss of data and monetization, I think they felt, the premium publishers, at least over the last 50 years, they're going to want to control how that happens and be comfortable with that, and probably take a page from Google's book on how you cohort to protect privacy, how that you give them control, right? And then finally, you end up with methodology in competition, just like I heard in the previous panel, where it's an iSpot or a video amp or a 605 or a Nielsen or a ComScore, right? I think that's healthy, and a statistical range that is, when we estimate audience that is MRC accredited is how we need to rethink it. And to close my point, solving for the technical problem has to be census level publisher controlled. I know there's complexity then at the business level, right? There's a lot owned and operated versus syndicated, right? Let's at least start to get to where we isolate the problem to solving business partnerships and business relationships, as opposed to the opposite, where we try to solve these business partnerships and then we hit a technical wall that is insurmountable. That's fundamentally the shift I would propose we make as an industry.
I'll chime in there, which is, the industry is evolving pretty rapidly and people are reacting at different speeds. And there are also very different strategies emerging. And the kind of complexity created by that, both disparate strategies and slow evolution, where some are leaning into audience-based one-to-one impression targeting, others are holding on to the past, is really kind of separating the industry. And I think what we also need to focus on is not just where we're going to go in the future, but how we're going to solve for that path from where we are now to the point where we have kind of the one-to-one potential federated identity and federated data storage areas for us to be able to, query across them or ship models to them for decisioning. That's the future we all want to get to, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen over, unfortunately, many painful years. And I think aligning on that kind of timeline is probably going to be more important than the aspirational kind of goals we have today.
And having some type of milestones. I agree with you, but I'm sorry for jumping in, but having some milestones along the way, because it's not really a black and white. There is a spectrum.
No, there is. I agree. And we should try and figure out those milestones quickly and start putting, some effort towards them.
Yeah, Prema, it would be interesting to hear from your perspective, obviously, and Google's, like, I think, what are the challenges? And then, clearly the announcement that happened today is a major one, and has, pretty significant implications. So I think, it'd be great to actually get your take on that announcement, because I think it fits in really well with this discussion, particularly around the theme of, needing to solve the siloing and fragmentation of data and how, this will impact our ability as an ecosystem to do that.
Yeah. So, just like everyone in the panel has and highlighted, there are many existing and emerging barriers. And to your point, increasing, which is important to acknowledge, though, that some of these existing barriers, like data fragmentation, will perhaps continue to prevail, partially due to some of the emerging privacy trends you brought up today's announcement, but also a lot of technological innovations. That is, consumers want to see media, or we are able to deliver media to consumers in many different ways. Having said that, the biggest barrier actually I see, before I directly address what you just asked me, Todd, is that digital only is just one part of the ecosystem. Today, increasingly, marketers are trying to reach their consumers across, TV, all types of different media types, and hence measurement across different media types, cross-channel is increasingly important. So the way, three things that come to mind to make these continue to make advancements is, first, we need to continue to offer and advance measurement solutions across media types and devices. Number two, I think this came up already, but we need to use data-driven approaches to establish reasonable standards and methodologies. And lastly, TV and digital need to come together to provide comparable solutions that we can accurately measure audiences. In terms of just today's announcement and largely on privacy, as we've said before, I mean, there are a number of different proposals that Android's looking at, and that ranges across the board from whether measurement and targeting, interest-based audiences, SDKs, as it's extraordinarily important for mobile devices. But just as ads, as where we sit, we are also looking at those proposals, and a lot of the explainers are now will be available on the website as well. But where we sit, we are trying to build measurement solutions that are privacy forward, not just for everyone, not just for a CMO, but also for a small business. So we need to continue to remain focused on advancing solutions that's privacy centric.
Great. So we just have a few minutes left. I think, you know, what would be interesting to get everyone's take on is, you know, panels typically have sort of a wide focus in terms of time horizon. You know, I think we're living in the here and now. It would be interesting to hear some proposals on how can we move the ball forward, even if it's just incrementally, to measure more effectively today, right? On a 3 to 6 month time horizon. What are the things that we can do as an industry in the here and now?
Yeah, I'll go first and be brief so I can leave my fellow panelists a moment. I guess repeating a little bit myself, it's like, I think we should embrace the realities of foundational census level data as the starting point. And we can inspect that. We can agree and get brands, right? Get Innovid, who represents the brands, right? They need to be comfortable and aware and transparent of the quality and accuracy of what they're seeing, whether it's from Conviva or someone else. And I think then we move to the next stage of figuring out business problems and how we solve for methodology issues. But right today, the starting point, I think, can be that as a way to rethink how we go about building from the bottom up.
I'll jump in and say, I think, again, looking at the short term and being realistic, I think standardization of whatever data that is available right now. So just to take a technical approach, adding to a vast standard, all of the extra attributes, content, genre, IFA as defined by the IAB, what is the context of that? Is a device ID, it's a session ID, it's an app ID, an exact manifest of all of the extra attributes and passing that in the bid stream or on a VAST tag and making that available across the whole chain. This is something that we can do, and it's pretty easy, doesn't require massive changes, and I think would move the industry forward quite a lot.
Love it.
From where I sit, I think, we need to continue to embrace innovation and technological solutions that come. And we need to, even in the short term, it may feel that it is longer term, but I think in order to develop solutions that are privacy forward and that are sustainable, we need to continue to embrace innovation, new technologies that are coming up, whether they are, clean room based, aggregate API, to name a few, because us coming together as an industry and providing feedback and working together to advance the solution, even in the near term, it's very important to make progress long term. And having said that, developing solutions that continue to focus cross-platform, that is across TV and digital, not just in a siloed fashion, I think would be extraordinarily important to develop and move the industry towards a more comparable solution.
Great.
Bring us home. I'll make it fast. Totally agree with Tal. Standardization is something we're driving towards. I know Todd and good old Jared got to participate in standardizing their networks on our tech. So there's a lot happening in that space. Agree with Prema that we can't pursue the digital log file with all attributes and signals approach that we had historically. That'll end poorly. And I think we all have to kind of figure out how to make each other comfortable in the industry. Distributors still have a massive say as to what information is passed and how it's passed. So agreeing on a clean room standardization approach and reporting structure would make things a lot better if we had some commonality across those systems, as opposed to each being completely different rules, different algorithms, different clustering approaches. And with that, I know we're out of time. So back to you, Todd.
Beautiful. Yeah, we're out of time. So just thanks to the panelists for a great discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, a massive thank you to Todd, James, Jonathan, Tal, and Prema for a fascinating discussion there.